everybody, I'm Shelly from the Iowa Quilt Block, and today we're going to be talking to you about how to make half square triangles 2 at a time. So a lot of people, this is kind of like the second thing you learn when you come into the whole quilty world is how to make half square triangles, because a lot of beginner patterns utilize half square triangles. But there's a fast, easy way to do this. We're going to show you. So to do them 2 at a time, there is a couple things that you need to know, and there's also a few tools involved. So we're going to talk about the tools first. First thing that we absolutely love is this quilt math book. The quilt math is all done for you. So today we have 3-inch squares, which we're then going to cut down to 2.5 when we trim, which is the perfect size for so many jelly roll projects and quilts. But this book has a whole page on all of the different sizes to cut your squares to end up with specific sized half square triangles. So you can use this for any pattern, whether the pattern tells you to make them 2 at a time or not. The other thing which we absolutely love is diagonal seam tape. This stuff is worth gold. We have it on our machine here, and then downstairs at our cutting table we actually have it on our cutting table, on our sewing table, coming off the needle, because the traditional way of doing this, you draw a line across your fabric and then you're going to sew on each side. Or making half square triangles, a lot of patterns will tell you draw a line corner to corner and then sew on the line. Well, drawing a line is very time consuming. I just made a quilt a couple weeks ago that had like 150 little squares to draw a line across. That I don't have time in my life for that. But the diagonal seam tape totally makes this process so fast and easy. No drawing a line is needed. So I've done it both ways, and I'll show you in a minute. The other of our favorite tools is this blade saver. You take your old rotary cutter blades when they're not good for rotary cutting, and you can put them in the little flower. There's a little screw that unscrews. You put your blade in there, and now you have little edges that you can cut on. It sits in this little cutter. We're going to chain piece our half square triangles, and if you're not familiar like with chain piecing, I'm just going to start with one and I'm going to sew a whole bunch of them all in a row, and they'll have thread between them, and we're going to use this little guy to cut that thread super fast. All right, I think we're ready to go. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is the half square triangle that I did draw the line on. So for this technique, instead of sewing on the line and then trimming part away and wasting the rest of that fabric, you actually are going to be able to utilize the entire piece of fabric. We are going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of the line. So you can do that. I don't have a 1/4 inch foot on my machine right now, but you can do that with a 1/4 inch foot, or the diagonal seam tape solves this problem. So you can see that we lined the diagonal seam tape up with the mark on our table and with the needle hole, and then the feed dogs. There's little marks on a Bernina. So look at your machine and see if you can line it up. Now at home, my slide on table does not have inches or centimeters marked on it. So I used a level app that I just put onto my phone to make sure it was nice and straight. Anyway, we're going to line this up. The top end is going to be lining up with the feed dogs. The bottom end is lining up with the black line. Okay. And then we're gonna trust the process. I'm at a weird angle, but I'm still gonna trust the process. Oh, we can speed it up a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then you're just gonna make sure the bottom tip is just following that black line. All right. Boom, we got one side done. Now we're going to do the other side. And it's going to be the same thing. We are lining up, following the black line with the tip of our triangle. Cut the thread, flip the foot, and boom, there we go. Okay. That's the one with the line. This is the one I did without even drawing a line. So this method eliminates the need for the line. We'll cut those in a second. So then the chain piecing part. You line up your squares and I'm going to do the same side on multiple squares at one time. Just going to follow it through, stop, and then get the next one going. Okay, so then we're going to come in here and I'm going to match the tip and match the tip, and it should catch. This is chain piecing. We did not cut our thread between our pieces. We're just going to send them all through the assembly line. The white one's a little bigger than the blue one, but you get the gist. This is how it goes. So then we're going to cut our threads when we're done with the last one. And then we're going to get the blade saver. We're going to, obviously you'd put it on your counter, but boom. And then it just totally cuts those threads apart. Now we're ready to chain piece the other side. So this time we're not worried about the first row stitching. We're worried about lining up our triangles for the next line. And it's going to be the same thing. Once it finishes this square, we're just going to get the next square. We're not going to worry about cutting our threads or anything. Next, I'm going to line up our corners. And the last one. Struggling to see that top corner, but there we go. We're going to cut the threads, grab our blade saver, and trim those apart from each other. All right, so now we are ready to cut our 2 half square triangles apart. I love this size ruler. It's 2.5 by 12.5. Creative Grids are already non-skid on the back, and then it has really nice, like this is solid inches, this is the built-in half. I'm using, this is the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to lay that 1/4 inch line on my stitching. And then let's, oh, you know what? This is a broken rotary cutter. Okay. So we lined up our line. We're going to just cut these in half. Boom. Always put your rotary cover back on your blade. And then I'm going to get out the seam roller. And I'm just going to roll it instead of pressing it. I will press, I mean, in real life, I would be pressing it, but we just don't have an iron up here. Okay, so now we have 2 half square triangle units. Now we need to trim. So we are now going to trim this guy into the 2.5 inch square that he needs to be. So I am lining up the diagonal on this ruler to the diagonal on my block. And then I'm going to trim these 2 sides, and then I'm going to flip it and trim the other 2 sides. Okay. And now we're just going to turn it so that the untrimmed sides are exposed. I'm going to line up the diagonal across the diagonal seam, and this is going to be the bottom and the side, and there we go. And then trim and trim. And boom, we got a perfect 2.5 inch square half square triangle. Thank you so much for joining us to learn how to make 2 half square triangles at a time. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and also there will be links in the comments to the products that we showed today. The blade saver, the seam roller, the diagonal seam tape, and this awesome No Math for Quilters book. That is amazing. Anyway, thank you. Hopefully you have a great week. Be sure to go to our Facebook page and follow us on Facebook. Join our private Facebook group. There's all kinds of fun shenanigans that go on in there. And thanks again for joining us. Bye.